Welcome to In the Ven Zone with Christine McKay, where we get candid about what it takes to negotiate effectively. You'll learn from the challenges and successes of entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. We help you change the nature of your negotiations and get more from every deal you do.
Hi, everyone. This is Christine McKay, Global Negotiation Strategist and CEO of Ven Negotiation. I am so excited to have Jillian Michaels here with me today, renowned fitness expert and a certified nutritionist. And I am just so honored to meet you. And thank you for being here with me.
Oh my gosh, thanks for having me.
I know you had a rough night last night, so I'm the mom of 3 daughters, so it's all good.
Oh my God, Christine. And she's like, Mom, remember when I saw that movie, Something with the Something, and I had nightmares all night? Because she was up all night with nightmares. And I was like, no, baby. And she's like, you don't remember? Because I guess it was a flashback to anyway, I don't know.
I know.
Oh my gosh. And then I was like, I remember, sweetheart. Yes, I validated. Yes, what a horrible, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, night. Yeah.
Mine are all in their 30s now, so I don't have to deal with their nightmares. But I do remember those days.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm really excited because I have to be honest. I didn't know a lot about you until I saw you on JT's show. I probably shouldn't say that, but that's okay. I'm pretty.
Oh my gosh, that's totally normal to say that.
And so I was one of the things I was really struck by was how warm you are when you were on the show with JT. And I suspect, because I did some homework, and that's not probably something you get very often. And so I'm really curious because I've been a negotiator for many years, and I've negotiated with a lot of very large companies, and people's perceptions kind of they bleed into negotiation. And so I've seen you had public breakups with networks and personal life. I actually saw one hideous thing that some jerk posted about your smile being insincere. And I was like, okay, these things come into play when people research on you. And so how has this public perception of you impacted some of your negotiation as you've built your business with your partner and all that? That's something I think that people will be very interested in.
You know what's interesting? There were a few individuals, not many, but a few individuals that definitely thought they were going to come in and show me who was boss. And it did not go well. Yeah, there was a guy who came in to NBC. And, as a woman, when you have strong opinions, you're difficult. It's just, she's a bitch. She's difficult. I must hear that all the time. She's such a bitch. She's difficult. And I thought to myself, I was the consummate professional. Did my job better than anybody could have done their job. Never, ever abused any of the crew members or anybody, never. But if I didn't like something and thought it was a bad idea for my contestants, for me, for the show, I would let you know it. I was like, this is a terrible idea. This is not intelligent, doesn't make sense. Then you're difficult and you're a bitch, right? So I had this whole, she's such a bitch, she's difficult. People just want to do what they want to do. So there was one individual who came in and just thought I'm going to be the guy that, wrangles her and beat his chest. And to make a long story short, I quit the show and never went back. So you're absolutely right. It does play in. That guy got fired from the network years later, but it's tough. It's and I did try, but a lot of things happened that shouldn't have happened because I think he was like, I'm going to do whatever I want to do. Right. And it was also the demise of the show as well, not just my involvement. So, but you're correct, 100%.
Well, I think that's interesting because what it shows is that, we can walk into a negotiation or a situation with a new relationship, and our preconceived notions can be the undoing of a long-term relationship. And oftentimes when we go into negotiation, people don't think about that. And they don't think about what those long-term implications are going to be. And so they make decisions based on a short-term outcome. And as a result, they end up losing in the negotiation over time, even if they feel like they won in the moment.
God, you're so right. I mean, if I actually stopped and thought about all of the different instances, right, that what you're talking about has probably come into play. I'm sure it's far more than just that one incident. You're absolutely right. It's like it's the battle war conversation then, right? It's like they may have won the battle, but this will cost you the war.
Right. Exactly. So one of the other things that I talk about because I do a lot of public speaking, I love teaching people how to be more effective negotiator in terms of business as well as their personal relationships. And I often say that the hardest part of any negotiation is
I'm like this now. This is not what I do. I'm like, all right, now I'm like literally here with you right now. Okay, so wait, what's the hardest part?
The hardest part is the negotiation that we have in between our ears. And as a fitness trainer, you deal with people's mindsets all the time. You are constantly encouraging and pushing people out of their comfort zone and to see something that you see things in people that they don't see in themselves. As a negotiator, I see things in people that they don't see in themselves and things in deals that people don't see. So from a negotiation perspective, how has the unbelievable, awesome career that you've had, and I'm so impressed with your black belts and stuff, that just blows my brain. Love that. But how has your training as a fitness instructor really moved you forward in your negotiation because of that negotiation? And what are some of the things you do when you end up having to negotiate with yourself that help you move yourself forward?
I would say with clients, or when I had actual personal training clients, or I would get the opportunity to work with people in that way one-on-one, which now is very difficult. It's not one session, it's years of sessions working with someone, months of sessions, and my schedule doesn't permit it. So, now it's things like apps and books and what have you. But back in the day when I had that luxury, you would get to know the person. So here's the science, right? I know the science and it works on everybody. Eat less, move more, use common sense with your food choices. Okay, great. And I was like, oh, all right. This person feels deprived when you take this away. So, all right, how can we incorporate that but still maintain the same calorie allowance? I'll give up the fact that the food has to be perfect as long as we hit this many calories. I'll work it in. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or then it's like, oh, this person hates this kind of fitness. So even though it's the most effective kind of fitness, they're not going to show up for it, which means it's going to be worthless. So they're like this and it isn't as effective, but if I can get it one more day a week, I can make it a little bit more impactful. So there was always playing with that science and working with their personality to get them to stick with it. Because even though I can tell you what will work the best and the fastest, if you psychologically can't show up for it, it's not going to work. So I learned how to negotiate on like there in that forum. Personally, I constantly have to keep my eye on the prize when negotiating with myself or for myself. So it's very tempting to give into the battle, right? And to just be like, oh, that's it. The gloves are off but then I always am thinking to myself, okay, what is the long-term goal? What is it that you want long-term? If you do this, does it serve you to achieve that goal? So it might feel good to tell that person to shove it. It might feel good to like dig your heels in right now and they're not going to control you. But does that get you closer to that ultimate goal that's at the top of this goal pyramid? And if the answer is no, I do my best to control my impulsivity. I have a series of behaviors I engage in to calm down. I pause. I call a friend to talk myself through it or whatever it might be so that I can shift that part of my brain that goes from impulse, and emotional reaction to reason and being rational. And that's sort of how I personally manage it in my life. I don't always win. I've made some mistakes, but I think I've come out on top more than not.
That's awesome. When I talk about negotiation, I don't know that JT would necessarily agree with this, but I always say negotiation is a relationship. Actually, negotiation is a conversation about a relationship, and there is no win in relationship. And so So what you just described, right? Even within ourselves, when we're negotiating with ourselves, that becomes part of the dialogue, the inner dialogue that we have.
I should have a session with you right now, but I mean, oh my goodness, it's constant too. It could be with, you know, my co-parent over the kids' schedules. Mm-hmm. I don't want them going back and forth week to week. I'm like, I want them to go back. It's constant. You're right. Now that you say that though, you're absolutely right. Like, it's not about winning. It's about trying to find a solution that works for everybody. You know, but boy, you can get caught up in the whole, like, you're not going to tell, you know, because you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. I've been married 27 years. My husband is just the most amazing person on the planet, for me anyway. Probably not amazing for anyone else. But I always say, you know, the contract, proverbial contract we entered into when we got married is not the same contract that we have today. That we've changed and we've grown as individuals. We've matured. Our kids are out of the house. We're in a different financial position. We're different geography. Everything's different. And we're not who we were when we entered that contract. But in business, we often expect the business to stay the same. We expect the same contract to continue to service a business that's actually grown and changed and morphed, instead of renegotiating those relationships. How have you addressed the concept of renegotiation over the course of your career and in your company?
Okay, so I am of the ilk, and this might not be, you know, who knows? JT might disagree with this, and I could be a bit too laissez-faire with money, but I also believe that I would rather have, you know, 50 cents of a dollar than 0 cents of the dollar, because I didn't know what I was doing. So, you know, it's the pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. I don't have the hog mentality. I probably could be a bit more shrewd. You know, with my business partner, he started out as my licensing agent, and then a manager, and then a CEO, and then a business partner. And we're 50-50 partners. So, you know, you look at kind of what Oprah Winfrey did with Jeff Jacobs, who was the man that built her business. And I think she kept him on a relatively small percentage. It worked for her. And, you know, she's clearly very successful. No one can argue with it. But for me, I was like, I'd rather have 50% of what I know that he can build versus 100% of what I know that I can build. So that's just one example of how, you know, my business evolved, and there were a variety of negotiations just with this one person.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I think that renegotiation is something that I wish we would talk more about, that notion that our relationships evolve, and so our business evolves with them.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jillian. I have really enjoyed our conversation very much. Thank you. And I really appreciate all the things that you're doing for women entrepreneurs and in business. So thanks.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. This is my absolute favorite interview. I learned so much. I'm like, I need to go to this woman's seminar. There's so much for me to learn here. I mean, wow. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of In the Ven Zone with Christine McKay. We invite you to visit our website at www.ven.zone to access the show notes and other helpful resources. Empower the negotiator in you and successfully level the playing field. Join us again next time here on In the Ven Zone.